Hey, 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 everybody. Welcome to the One Day Closer podcast. I am your host, Jay. Thank you for joining me. And usually I would do a little recap here, but today is a good special day because Christy joins me in the studio.
Hey, y'all.
Hey, y'all. That's so her right there. And I laugh now and she's a little nervous, everybody, so y'all bear with her. She's never done anything like this before. And I was telling her, everybody's going to be looking forward to hearing what you got to say. And she says, ain't nobody. What do you say?
Nobody cares what I have to say.
Nobody. They do. They do care. Actually, we got some great people listening. So, and trust me, I hear from them, and they tell me they want to hear what you got to say. So,
You may not want to hear what I have to say.
I probably not, but what you always tell me, you say, I don't tell the full story.
You never tell the full story, ever.
Well, today
today I get to tell the full story.
What was that? The old broadcaster, Paul Harvey.
Oh, and the rest of the story.
The rest of the story. So everybody out there in the podcast world, and again, I thank y'all all for listening and joining me on this journey. Today, Christy will give the rest of the story, and we're just going to talk about some things. And I have a feeling it's going to go way longer than one episode. So. This one may end in a weird spot, and but that'll just be more for future discussions, right? So with that being said, thank you, baby.
You're welcome. This. I don't really like this. I don't like being put in the spotlight.
It's not the spotlight.
It is the spotlight.
We're just talking. No one's listening.
Everyone's listening.
It's just me and you.
Okay.
So
keep telling yourself that.
Yeah, that's how I get through the episodes. So with that being said, I know me and you were talking earlier, like, hey, just kind of start from the beginning. And for those of y'all tuning in and I think the ones that have been listening through all these episodes. So we're going to take it back. We're going to take it back to the beginning and hear Christy's thoughts on everything. And like my last episode, I will talk and I know I laughed. She hasn't had a chance to listen to the episode I just put out the other day, but I talk about caregivers, right? And so that this perspective, right, is coming from the woman who was my primary caregiver.
Yeah,
did a phenomenal job, by the way.
Fortunately, I've been with my grandchildren who allow me no time to listen to anything other than them.
Yeah. So with that being said, I touched on, like telling people who are caregivers, right? Because, we can focus on people going through, right, the illness or stuff like I've gone through, but it's completely different. I mean, you've talked about it many a times, right? How it's a completely different experience. So that's what everybody gets the different view, because you'll find out it's a different perspective on the same events, right? And how stressful it can be. So yeah, in that last episode, I just reminded caregivers, man, they got to take care of themselves, right?
As a caregiver, you absolutely have to take care of yourself, even though you feel like you're taking care of yourself and you're taking care of everyone else. Most of the time, caregivers do not take care of themselves, and that can just end in some major problems at some point in time.
Yeah. I mean, it's what was it? Of course, we're getting off track. We ain't even gotten to the story yet. But this is good, right? Because this is what people need to hear, right? This is what people need to hear, because how many people, I mean, I know, some we know together that are dealing with a severe illness, right? And, it's what was it? You said you felt guilty for, having thoughts where like, hey, you just want to put a pillow over my head, man. And, it's like many of those nights and all.
That's only when you made me change your pillows 25 times.
Yeah. Well,
which we'll get into. I'll explain that a little bit more so everyone understands what I had to deal with.
Yes, there'll be plenty of time for that. And so, the other thing is you said you would feel guilty, like you're like, hey, it'd be easier just to walk away, right? In the heat of the battle, so to speak. And that's just it. When we talk about caregivers, and it's okay. That's why I told you, it was okay to have those thoughts, right? So, but you caregivers out there, that's you're not unique in that sense, right? People may feel guilty. I was speaking with somebody not terribly long ago, who cares for a grandchild who has some severe physical and mental disabilities. And she was telling me how she struggled at the beginning.
Right.
And, of course, now she feels that, the kind God has put her in that place to be able to care for her grandchild. And she's at peace with that. Of course, it breaks her heart for a loved one, to see in that condition. But she also understands those thoughts, she had in the early days. She does realize that's normal. But like I said, caregivers, you got to take care of yourself. So we got off on a little different road there. But we'll go back to the beginning. So I'm going to say literally the beginning real quick. So there was a time when this all started, right? So I was here at the house. I was shaving and my hands cramped. And I didn't think much of it until later on that same day. I was, not even been the next day, but I was playing guitar and that didn't work worth a hoot. My fingers wasn't working. And I called you because I was due to have surgery in a couple of days to remove my gallbladder, right? So nothing to do with this illness.
Right.
And I called you up and I'm like, hey, babe, I don't know what's going on. The hands are cramping. So I just want you to know if anything happens post-surgery, it's, or if it becomes anything, I forgot how I told you. Hey, it's got nothing to do with the gallbladder surgery, which is really weird because you think about all the years we've been together. I've never called and told you anything like that, right? Like, I mean, it's like something happened. I knew something was different. So when you got that call, did you even think anything about it?
Absolutely not. And I'll do my best not to utter a cuss word here or two, but
well, yeah.
Here, there. I'll do my very best, but
it's if you do, I
you can
beat
edit
that
me out. Okay, you can beat me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see.
I want to do one just so you can beat me.
Wait, I'll go back. I'll come. Actually, Christy's whole interview is going to sound like this. No, I'm sorry. Hold on. That would be.
And that is what everyone would expect.
That would be. I guess I ought to learn how to work the little board here. But yeah, no, we got the beeper. So if it flies.
All right, I'll do my very best.
And editing, right? We'll do. Oh, I keep hitting the wrong button there.
That must be what you want to do then.
No, it's a different screen here. That's a.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
With that being said, and actually, you know what? I didn't even give you the good intro. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Christy.
Hey, y'all. Hope y'all doing good out there.
Yeah, there we go. I had to get you. I said I missed the applause earlier. I would have had to put that in. So now you get that phone call. You don't think a darn thing about it.
I don't think anything about it. I just honestly, at that time, of course, I go through in my mind, like, really, I just didn't think anything of it.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I mean, you've worked as a fireman for a long time. You've been bashed in the head, not nearly enough times.
Yeah.
But, you've had things fall on your head when you were doing different fires and stuff. And that we knew that you had some spinal issues. And honestly, I just assumed, stupidly, that it was probably something from your cervical spine causing you to have like the changes in the way that you could define motor movement of your arms.
Yeah. And to be honest, I was right there with you. It was just so weird how it came on like that. And so we'll kind of fast forward a little bit, right? Because ultimately what we did is I did have my surgery. Things did get worse. I started, the arms started getting numb, and then it crept up from the hands all the way up to the shoulders. And I was able to get that MRI, which showed, yes, there's damage, like we talked about, but not the kind of damage that would do.
Right.
Yeah, that would do.
And as we all know, I'm kind of a bulldog when it comes to things. So, it was right before the surgery was at the beginning of December. Yeah. So this is going into the holidays, but does that stop me? Absolutely not. We're going to get our MRI. We're going to get whatever we need done before the holidays if I can make it happen. Yeah. And I did. And I'm sure that his local neurologist, his nurse here, really hated to hear me when I called because I really, really gave her a hard time.
Are you kidding? That nurse still has PTSD. She probably hears my name and she goes into PTSD, curls up from what you did to her.
Probably so.
So, and that was one nurse to another there, you know. But and of course this was during COVID. We'll remind everybody, right? This
Right.
was during good old Rona. So it wasn't like you could just go marching down to the doctor's office, much less, you know, we're at the end of the year, right? It's going into the holidays, going into Christmas. So, but we got that MRI, you know, got the results. Doc says, hey, doesn't look like the problem. So let's set you up a conduction study in January. So at that point, it was probably going to be about 3 weeks.
Right. Yep.
And
Which I was not happy with.
no, I don't think you were.
Big surprise.
Christy was more aggressive than I was. At that point, I'm like, hey, okay, we'll see you in 3 weeks, and I'll just deal with it. Now, of course, when I say deal with it, at this point, I can't do much with the hands or arms at that point. It was, especially by the end of the month. You remember, because by the end of, by Christmas, right, we had the family over and stuff. I couldn't do squat, man.
Yeah, you couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
We actually, whole other story,
Yeah.
but we still had our hurricane shutters up because Jay had to prove a point to somebody in the neighborhood.
To the
about-
HOA.
To the HOA. So we still had hurricane shutters up, but we couldn't get them off because he's unable to take them off now.
Yeah.
So for Christmas, when the boys came over, they all kind of pitched in and helped us get the hurricane shutters off. And there's several pictures of us actually for that Christmas, and Jay is sitting down in almost all pictures.
Yeah.
And
I couldn't. Well, you know, the legs wasn't necessarily acting up at that point, but I was very fatigued.
we were very tired. It was very hard for you to stand for any period of time.
And we didn't know why, right? I mean,
Right.
obviously, this was the thing is we wasn't putting two and two together yet. Of course, no one was.
No one was.
But yeah, you're right. Well, actually, I think on the Facebook page I had put that picture, our family picture, with me sitting in the chair. But you know, you remember I couldn't even, because the arms were so jacked up, I couldn't even hold any of the babies.
Right. Yeah.
we
I
didn't
think
put any of them
Riley
in my lap
was
or
going to
anything.
try to sit,
Sit
but
in my lap, yeah.
yeah. We'll have to tell about Easter later. Sorry.
Oh yeah. Oh,
Segue.
Yeah. I've told that story, but yeah, again, I want you to tell that one. So you know, we go through Christmas, and boy, the HOA thing. Hey, real quick, funny one on that. So yes, I didn't take my shutters down for months.
Poke the
And then-
bear is
yeah.
what our neighbor said.
Yeah.
The
Well-
Facebook HOA page poked the bear,
But-
and he proved a point,
I did prove a point.
and he left the dang hurricane shutters up from on our house after Hurricane Sally from like freaking September until December when the kids came over and took them off.
That's true, and I believe now that neighborhood has the Fassbender rule, which they literally redid their bylaws
They did.
and said that your hurricane shutters must be removed within a very quick,
Yeah.
reasonable thing. Well, of course, part of it, you know, in all fairness, because I mean, yes, I was trying to prove a point, but also I ended up not being able to pull them off, right? So it's like at first it started out.
but
It started out.
I mean, December.
yeah,
Come on now.
yeah.
You
Well,
had September, October, November.
yeah, but look at us. What are we? November 7th, there's no hurricane out in the Gulf. So, you know, you never know, right? You never know when this
You're
is
just
going to
going to
happen.
work that hurricane season out and make sure nothing else happened. You didn't want to put them up again.
Yeah. So, and then, of course, unfortunately, I got sick and it wasn't coming down. So thank God our boys, Jeremy and Austin and Jeffrey, took down,
They
the
did.
thing. So,
Thankful for the boys coming over and helping out.
yes, absolutely. So that rolls us into the New Year's. So we go over to New Orleans to spend a day with my mom, and of course hit the casinos. Mom loves the casinos, still loves them, doesn't get to go as much. Christy loves the casinos too.
I do. I especially love going with your mom. She has like all these wild tricks that I still don't understand, but the woman always wins.
Yeah,
It's kind of crazy when you look at it statistically how many times she's gone versus won versus losing.
yes.
But anyway.
definitely above average. It definitely. I've been with that woman my whole life. I still don't understand the strategy, but she's got it.
So we went to the casino and we were having a family dinner because she had comps that she had to use at
Yeah.
one of the fancier restaurants. So we were going to have a steak dinner.
Steak dinner for the New Year. Yeah.
So before we did the steak dinner, Lolly and I went to go play slots
Yeah.
and spend a bunch of money in slot machines and try to win, which I never win. Lolly always won. and Jay and Sean and little Shawnee, I think,
Yes.
they were all there too. And they decided to go
Well,
walk across the street to.
Well, actually, I was going to meet them at the brewery.
That's right.
across the
You were going to
street,
meet them
yeah.
at the brewery at Gordon Besh, right?
Gordon Besh, yeah.
Yeah. So you're going to meet them at the brewery. I don't know if I'm supposed to say the name, but
No, you can say the name. I was
whatever.
going to say it's not like they're kicking us back any money. You know? But hey,
So-
if they want to pay us, Gordon Besh Brewery, let know.
working on those sponsors, got to get it in.
Yeah, no. That's like I was talking about the shirt from last night. No modeling fees, and that's
Sorry,
a whole
y'all.
nother story.
We're probably going to get off a little bit
Yeah.
throughout all this, so you just have to bear with us.
Yeah. So, but no, I did. I walked over, and of course, the funny thing about that, and I don't even think I told us when I did that episode, but when I left you and Mom to wear out the slot machines, I walked over to the brewery, and I did the underground route. Right.
Right.
We were at Harris Casino. For those who know the area, the Harris Casino there in New Orleans, and as the underground tunnel takes you under the street, you pop up on the side, and oh my God, man, I thought I walked. Like I put it like this. I was feeling so bad. I thought I was having like some kind of diabetic issue, like a sugar issue, right? Where it's just I was so fatigued, and it was so crazy because again, that was a first.
Right.
And ultimately we figured out it was the illness. But again, at the time we don't know this. So
Well, we didn't know that. And also because we honestly didn't want to alarm Lolly.
yeah, so we were trying to hide everything.
So we were trying to hide that there was any issues at all, which,
Yeah.
we did for the most part.
We did a good job for a while there.
So they went to go have some beers.
Yeah.
They had beers, and then they were coming back to the casino to meet us because we were going to go meet for our dinner. And Jay had some issues running, actually. So,
Like trying to
you
jog
know,
across the street.
I mean,
yeah.
in New Orleans, you got to move because they will hit your ass.
Yeah, that
I
would have
mean,
been Poydras Street.
I mean,
6 lanes, maybe
they
7.
literally will run you over. So
Yeah.
you got to move when you have a chance. So he, trying to run across the street and was unable to run.
Yeah.
And I believe the way, because I was like trying to figure out how in my mind to equate what it felt like. But I believe we came up with it felt like concrete blocks were on his feet
Yes.
and unable to pick up his legs.
Yes.
That's kind of how we got to describing what that felt like, I think. Is that correct?
No, that's absolutely. It literally felt like the legs were in concrete. I couldn't, lift the hips. Everything was
Right.
just so heavy.
Yeah.
And so, of course, I get there and I tell you,
Yeah.
like,
He
holy
pulls me
smoke.
to the side and he's like, "Hey, I don't want to alarm you, but I had trouble crossing the road." And I'm like, "Well, what do you mean you had trouble crossing the road? Like, I don't understand. What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well, I couldn't walk faster. I couldn't run." And I was like, "You have to explain it better." And that's when we came up with concrete blocks on the feet.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, that's weird." So obviously in my mind, because I think I know everything there is to know, I start going through all the differential diagnoses because I've decided that somebody doesn't know what they're doing and I'm going to fix it. I know
Yeah.
all y'all are surprised about that, but
Yeah. And we weren't even deep into that at that
We
point,
were
right?
not
This
deep
was still
into
the
it.
beginning.
so then we go to dinner. Dinner was funny because we were trying again to hide it from Lolly. We didn't want to worry her unnecessarily. And Sean being the brother, and brothers being brothers. So Jay literally has to hold a glass with both of his hands because he can't hold it with one hand because he can't grip it. So he's got both hands and he's shaking the whole
And I had
time.
tremors, yeah.
So like literally, honestly, he looked like almost like honestly like Parkinson's. So he's like shaking the whole time, bringing the cup to his mouth and trying to take a sip and then putting it down. And then Lolly has a problem seeing. She's so then she makes a comment about the steak and her not being able to cut it. So Sean, being the wonderful brother that he is, and brothers being brothers, he's like, "Hey, Mom, Jay can cut your steak for you, huh? Ha ha ha!" And I was like, "What the hell, man? No."
Yeah. Like that.
So
Don't. We're trying to hide things, and
we're trying to
he's
hide
killing
things,
us
and
on
he's
that.
he's definitely killing us on that. But it all ended up funny. He and I and little Shawnee and Jay, of course, we were all cracking up laughing. Lolly probably will not think this is so funny now that we're talking about it,
Yeah.
and she knows that we.
Well, I think we finally have told her. I think me and Sean have had that conversation. We've joked about it.
I'm not going to take that's all on Jay, Lolly.
Yeah.
That's your baby boy. He
Yeah.
chose to do that, so it's all his fault.
I was just trying not to worry her.
So we get through the dinner.
Yeah, and that was January 1st of 2021, right?
Yep.
So we're rolling into the new year. That's how it started. What a way to start
What
the
a way
first
to
day
start
of the
the-
new year.
Yep.
Little did we know that that was a good indication of
Of
how
what was going to happen.
of how that year was going to go, right?
Yep. So we get through the dinner. We come home. His nerve conduction study was scheduled for the 6th, I believe, January 6th.
January 6th.
So,
not that anything else happened on January 6th of 21, but for us, January 6th has its own meaning. So.
Right, exactly.
So,
So I was at work working, and he had gone to this nerve conduction study. And at this point, I was really nervous. I had probably looked up every diagnosis of neurological disorders and anything known to man, and trying to figure out what on earth could be going wrong, what on earth could be causing these symptoms. And I just honestly didn't know. So I was very frustrated with myself. 'Cause I kind of I'm pretty hard on myself about knowing what I'm supposed to know. I don't know if that makes sense.
Medically speaking.
Yeah, medically speaking, I'm
not politics, but
definitely not politics. I don't know anything about politics.
Yeah.
But medically speaking, yes, I'm very hard on myself when it comes to almost perfection, which you will never have in medicine. But I am definitely the worst critic.
Yeah, but that also is what makes you such a great provider too, though, because you're striving for the best. And of course, in between that, the first, right, at that dinner at that and to the 6th, remember, I mean, I was barely walking.
Things had steadily progressed pretty rapidly, I would say. And so, I mean, when I say I was looking, I was really concerned because I wasn't sure exactly what we were dealing with. It was just very odd. It didn't present like any normal neurological disorder. It didn't present like, a spinal compression.
Yeah, because we're still thinking it's maybe something like that. Even though the MRI of the neck didn't show anything, but
it just didn't make sense.
We just didn't,
honestly.
Yeah, we didn't know where we were going with that.
And it wasn't ascending. By ascending, I mean from the feet up. It actually was descending from the shoulders, arms, hands down. Yeah. So Guillain-Barré typically is ascending. It usually starts in the feet and works its way up. So Guillain-Barré wasn't even on my, honestly, I thought about it briefly because he did get the flu shot, as we're all required to do in healthcare.
Oh, yeah.
Lovely flu shot.
Anyway. You took the words. I was going to use a better word. I would have had to beat myself really on that one.
So he had gotten the flu shot, and it was right in that window of where, you can have stuff happen neurologically from vaccines. I don't know if any of y'all know that, but just so you know, that can happen. I'm not bashing vaccines. Everybody get your vaccines. Do your research. Figure it out for yourself.
But
anyway,
what is it? It's like hitting the 0.00001 lottery or something like that.
It's hitting the lottery that no one wants to hit.
No one wants to hit. There's a couple other lotteries I would have preferred to hit besides the one we did.
So he goes for his nerve conduction study, and I'm working. Yeah. And so
I mean, I'm barely walking. I should have got a wheelchair when I got in there.
He should have, but we all know he's very stubborn and doesn't listen.
Not at all.
So he's dealing with that, and I'm at work. Of course, I'm like, I need to take off and be with you. And he's like, don't take off work.
I can do it.
I don't need you there, blah, blah, blah. So, against my better judgment, I go to work, and I'm so nervous all day long because at this point, I have come to a diagnosis in my mind after everything that's happened and how rapidly it's progressing. I was almost certain that he had ALS. And ALS is a neurological disorder that causes paralysis. Mm-hmm. And it's a terminal disorder. There is no cure for it. They treat it, but typically once you're diagnosed with ALS, you have a couple of years, 10 at the most, but most people are more in like the 2 to 5 year range after diagnosis. So I was certain that is what we were going to be diagnosed with. Yeah. So I had worked it up in my mind that is what it's going to be. And I was very upset. I remember standing in my coworker's office. I was standing in Rachel's office, and she's trying to, comfort me and tell me it's going to be fine. And I remember turning away from her because I started crying, and I hate crying in front of people because to me, it just shows weakness, even though it is not weakness. And I know that. But again, that's my own personal beliefs about myself.
Yeah.
So I turned away from her so she wouldn't see me crying, even though obviously she knew I was crying.
She knew you were crying.
And I was like, I just know it's ALS. I know it's ALS. And I have my girlfriends. I have a couple of groups of girlfriends and my besties. And all of them were aware of what was going on. And I think all of us at that point had decided it was probably ALS. So he calls me after the test, and he's crying.
Wrong, huh?
Yeah, we were. No. Thankfully, we were wrong. So he's crying, and he says, I have Guillain-Barré. And I was like, hell yeah. because Guillain-Barré is treatable and it's not terminal.
Yeah.
And I'm not laughing to make fun or
No,
to like
well-
make light of anyone with Guillain-Barré. It is a very serious disease.
Yeah, but also when I called you though, I'm in tears.
He's in tears. He's so upset, and I am
So
honestly flooded with
Yeah.
extreme relief because I'm like, I can deal with Guillain-Barré. Guillain-Barré I can deal with. So going on from there.
Yeah.
So we get the diagnosis of Guillain-Barré. So then I start, well, what are we going to do to fix it? Because that's a diagnosis. And because it can be descending. It's mostly ascending. It is in the right time length after the influenza vaccine. So yeah, maybe it's that. But what are we going to do? Like, we're not just going to sit here and watch him become paralyzed. I'm not. Somebody's going to do something. And again, I can be.
But the joke was on you. You did have to sit there and watch me become paralyzed.
I
so.
did. And I was not happy about it.
Ha.
But I did do my best to try to make it work.
Yeah.
To try to find cures and treatments.
Yeah.
So I called his neurologist, his local neurologist, and again harassed his local neurologist's nurse. Poor thing. I really feel bad because I probably was not very nice to her, honestly, because my concern was getting treatment for my husband. I didn't care about feelings of anyone. I didn't care if I was rude. I didn't care if I was pushy. My ultimate goal was to be his advocate, and I was going to do whatever I had to do to make sure he was taken care of. And feelings hurt, well, that's just too bad. Grow up. Get over it. It's part of it. So I do apologize to that nurse. I hope that, if she ever listens or hears this, I do apologize for
I hear she's no longer a
my
nurse.
nasty.
She's in a mental institution somewhere in a padded room.
Be quiet. So
her trigger is Miss Fassbender's on the phone. That's
probably so,
that's
because
her trigger.
literally I would call. I think I talked to this girl pretty much every day for like probably a good month. Like, I called every day because
it does seem like that. All kidding aside,
I literally was like, I'm not letting this go. Like, I'm just not going to let it go.
Yeah.
So I called and I was like, well, what's our plan? And she was like, well, we're going to do a lumbar spinal tap now, and then we'll see what that shows. And I'm like, well, what's the point of the spinal tap? Like, yeah, obviously I know what a spinal tap is, and I know what the point of it is, but like, we're waiting on a spinal tap for further diagnosis, for treatment. Like, why we have to wait on the spinal tap? So she was like, well, Dr. Markle, edit. I didn't want to say his name.
No, that's okay. I can take that out.
Okay. I don't think he would care, but local neurologist.
Yeah, we'll say
wanted the spinal tap. So we go to Thomas Hospital, and it's an outpatient procedure. So he goes in, and of course it's COVID, so no one can go in the hospital. No one can go inside. So I'm literally sitting in the car the whole time.
You dropped me off at the door.
I dropped him off at the door. He's barely walking. He's shuffling in, and I'm like, please just get in a wheelchair. Of course, he will not get in a wheelchair because he is not going to get in a wheelchair. Okay. So he shuffles in, he makes it in there, and then it was a few hours, and I was kind of like, okay, this should be well past done, because they were doing it with fluoros, so there was no reason why. I mean, it should just be like easy in and out. Well, obviously, because Jay is, such a rare character, bird, I guess you could say, oddity.
We have found out that nothing about me is remotely normal.
That is true, actually.
In so many ways, actually. But
almost every way.
But we also found out spinally.
Right. So the radiologist.
I wish I could remember that doctor's name. I got a few things to say about him. I wouldn't mind putting that name across there. But
it was an interventional radiologist, and he attempted several times to get the spinal tap done and was unsuccessful.
3 sticks.
3 sticks. So at this point, I am like, okay, so we didn't get the tap, so we don't have the information we need. So now what's our plan? So I call back to my friendly nurse, and I'm talking to her, and I'm like, well, what's our plan? And she was like, well, I'll talk to Dr. Markle and see. Again, I said his name. Sorry, edit. I'll talk to the doc and see.
I like Dr. Markle, so I'm not going to...
I love Dr. Markle.
Yeah,
I think he's a fabulous doctor. I just
I
didn't know
don't
if I
think
could
we
say
even-
his name. There's nothing bad about him.
No,
And there's
no,
nothing
no,
bad
no.
about his nurse at all, except for I harassed the hell out of her.
Actually, no, his staff was awesome. Yeah,
They were amazing.
I mean,
It's just-
we joking about, because you did harass her and all of that.
I did.
But no, actually, I would recommend Dr. Markle for anybody.
all day long. He is by far probably one
So,
of my
all
top
kidding. So we won't even have to worry about editing that out,
top
huh?
neurologists in town. But
Yeah,
I do love Markle.
yeah.
Um,
And I did tell a story about how, when he was man enough to say, "Hey,
yeah,
I don't have a
he
clue,"
was.
right? And man, as far as doctors go, I respected him for that. Of course, it wasn't the answer I wanted to hear, and I'm getting a little ahead of the story, right?
Yeah, you're getting way ahead. So,
Yeah, but no, but I talked about that, So yeah, I'm okay with using his name and throwing it out there.
so
So
now you got me off track.
no. So we were talking about the doctor. You missed on the 3 sticks.
Right. So he missed
So
the
what's the
lumbar
next
puncture. So
step?
what's our next step? So they're like, okay, well, we'll admit him to the hospital and do IVIG. Again, COVID. I can't go in with him.
Yeah.
So
Well, hell, we couldn't even get a hospital room.
we
I mean,
couldn't get a hospital room.
It was like,
Initially, it was like, hey, we're going to admit you. You'll be a direct admit, blah, 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 blah. So,
Yeah.
and it's at a hospital that I'm very closely affiliated with
Yeah.
at that time. And so I, of course, call everyone, including the CFO
yeah.
of the hospital. And it's like, he needs to be admitted, get him a room. I want it done now. And I will say,
that is the reality. We begged
I
and
did.
pulled some
I
strings.
did. I
and-
pulled strings. Any strings I had, they were being pulled. So we were able to get him admitted to the hospital, and we knew it was going to be 5 days for certain because the treatment he was going to get was a 5-day treatment plan.
And that was the IVIG I talk about.
Right.
All right. Well, we're gonna wrap up this segment right there. Told y'all this one would probably end kind of funny like that. And the great thing is, people, that we actually had recorded for hours. So the big surprise is probably the next 4 episodes will also be the continuation of Christy telling the rest of the story. So I hope y'all enjoyed this as much as I did doing it with her. What a great time, and just an amazing woman. When I say I could not have done it without her, I am not. There's no exaggeration there. That woman willed me through this. So a lot more good stuff to come, and just want to remind everybody: trust in Jesus. Give him your burdens. Let him be your burden bearer. He'll carry you through it. Carries me through it every day. Thank y'all for tuning in. And remember, live your spirit.